There's a box of table salt sitting in your kitchen right now, and there's a very good chance it's sitting there doing absolutely nothing, while your water bill climbs a little higher every single month. And the thing is, the connection between that box of salt and what you're paying for water isn't obvious. It's not direct. It's not something you'd ever piece together on your own, unless you understood what's actually happening inside the pipes beneath your feet every single day. What I'm going to walk you through today is one of those things that feels almost too simple once you understand it. That's usually the sign that the idea is real. Genuine solutions rarely feel complicated, and this one costs about $1. Maybe less if you're buying in bulk. But here's what I want you to hold on to for the next few minutes. The savings people are reporting. And I've seen this range anywhere from meaningful reductions to numbers that surprised even me. Aren't coming from some magical property of salt. They're coming from something far more logical. Something that, once I explain the mechanism, you're going to look at your morning routine differently. And the reason this particular thing doesn't get discussed more openly. Well, let's just say the people who benefit most from your drain problems, staying problems, aren't exactly motivated to hand you the solution. Let's start from the beginning. Most people look at their water bill and assume the number they see is just the number. You used that much water. End of story. But the reality of residential water consumption is messier than that. And a big chunk of what you're paying for is water that did essentially nothing useful. Think about this for a moment. When your sink drain is sluggish, when water pools before slowly disappearing, what do? You run the tap longer. You might turn the pressure up hoping that helps. You might run hot water for a few extra minutes trying to clear whatever's slowing things down. That's not a hypothetical. That's what most households do, and they do it multiple times a day without even registering it as extra consumption. Now multiply that across your kitchen sink, your bathroom sink, your shower, your utility sink if you have one. Multiply it across a month. Slow drains are water wasters. And more than that, a partially blocked drain forces you into habits you don't even notice. Leaving the water running while you wait for the basin to clear. Running extra flush cycles. Letting the shower warm up longer because the drain situation makes a standing puddle, so you're waiting before stepping in. There's also the pressure on your water heater. When drains are sluggish, you tend to compensate with hotter water. The assumption being that hotter water cuts through whatever's causing the problem. That increases your hot water usage, which circles back to your energy bill. The point I'm building toward is this. Your drain's performance is connected to your water bill in ways that aren't printed anywhere on your monthly statement. And a compromised drain, one that's accumulating grease, soap residue, mineral scale, or organic matter, is a drain that's costing you money invisibly every single day. Which brings us to salt. Here's where it gets interesting. And I mean genuinely, scientifically interesting. Not in a buzzword way. In a way that actually tracks with real chemistry. Table salt, sodium chloride, has a set of properties that make it useful in drain maintenance for several distinct reasons. First, the abrasive action. Salt crystals, especially coarse or kosher salt, have a physical grit to them. When you introduce salt into a drain with hot water following behind it, that physical texture creates a mild scouring effect against the interior walls of your pipe. It won't scratch the pipe itself. We're talking soft crystalline material against much harder materials. But it does agitate and loosen the soft accumulations that cling to those surfaces. Soap scum, grease film, biofilm, which is the slightly unpleasant layer of organic matter that develops in any wet environment over time. Second, and this is the property most people don't know about, salt is hygroscopic and osmotically active. What that means in practical terms is that salt draws moisture toward itself. When introduced into an environment where organic matter is present, the kind of sludge that builds up gradually inside residential pipes, salt creates an osmotic pressure differential that essentially dehydrates that organic matter. It makes it more brittle, more likely to break apart and flush through rather than cling. Third, and this one is underappreciated, salt has a measurable effect on certain fats and oils. This is actually why salt has been used in food preservation and in soap making for centuries. Sodium chloride disrupts the molecular structure of fatty compounds in a process called salting out. In your drain, what this means is that grease and oil residue, the stuff that every kitchen drain accumulates, becomes less stable and more water-soluble when regularly exposed to a saline solution. Now combine those three actions together. Physical abrasion, osmotic disruption of organic material, destabilization of fatty deposits, applied regularly over weeks and months. What you get is a drain that maintains its diameter, a drain that flows closer to full capacity, a drain that doesn't demand you compensate for its inefficiency with extra water, extra heat, and extra runtime. That's the mechanism. And it's not complicated. It's chemistry that's been understood for a long time. Salt as a drain treatment isn't some new internet trick someone cooked up to go viral. This practice, in various forms, has shown up in household maintenance guides going back well over a century. In the era before chemical drain cleaners became the default solution, before the branded products you recognize lined store shelves, households relied on a short list of inexpensive, widely available materials for basic maintenance. Salt was on that list. So was baking soda. So was vinegar. So was boiling water. What's interesting isn't that people used these things. What's interesting is why they fell out of common practice. The short answer is marketing. When commercial drain cleaning products entered the mainstream market in the mid-20th century, they were positioned as the modern, powerful, professional solution to a problem that older methods merely tolerated. The implication being, if you're still using salt and hot water, you're stuck in the past. If you want results, you need the chemical product. And to be clear, those chemical products do work for acute clogs. A completely blocked drain may need something stronger than salt. I'm not dismissing them entirely, but for preventive maintenance, for keeping a drain clear before it becomes a problem, the older methods have a track record that's genuinely worth revisiting. The price difference is stark. A canister of table salt costs around $1. Chemical drain maintenance products can run $5 to $15 per treatment, and they carry their own set of considerations, particularly around older pipes, where harsh chemicals can accelerate corrosion over time. Salt doesn't eat your pipes. Salt doesn't react with PVC, copper, or cast iron in any damaging way. It rinses clean. And if you're on a septic system, it doesn't disrupt the bacterial ecosystem the way some chemical products can. It's a maintenance tool that got quietly replaced by a more expensive alternative. That's the story. Now, I want to be fair here. I'm not saying every plumber is out to get you. The vast majority of plumbing professionals are skilled tradespeople doing legitimate work. When you have a real emergency, a burst pipe, a major blockage, a sewage backup, call a plumber. Don't watch a YouTube video and try to handle it with salt. But there's a structural reality worth understanding about how preventive home maintenance advice tends to get disseminated. Plumbers, as a profession, earn their income from service calls. A service call typically runs between $150 and $400 for basic drain issues, depending on your region and the severity of the problem. The motivation to educate homeowners about inexpensive preventive habits that would eliminate a portion of those calls is not exactly strong. That's not a conspiracy. That's just business economics. It's the same reason your car dealership isn't handing you a pamphlet about how to extend the life of your own tires through inflation management. They'll rotate and replace tires all day long at a service price. Information that reduces service frequency doesn't get promoted by the people who charge for service. What I find genuinely interesting, and somewhat telling, is that when you look at discussions in professional plumbing circles, the sentiment around preventive salt treatments isn't that it doesn't work. It's more often a quiet acknowledgement that yes, regular maintenance of this type does help, combined with a pivot toward why you still need professional services for deeper issues. Which is true. You do. But you need them a lot less often when your drains aren't left to accumulate 2 years of grease and soap film before someone notices a problem. The point isn't blame. The point is that you are the one living in your house. You are the one paying your water bill. And the information about what you can do yourself, inexpensively, to maintain your plumbing between professional visits, That information is available to you, and it's worth having. So let's actually do this, because knowing the idea is one thing, but understanding exactly how to execute it is what separates results from disappointment. What you'll need: 1 cup of coarse salt. Kosher or sea salt works better than ultra-fine table salt for this because the larger crystal size increases the abrasive effect. You'll also want 1 to 2 quarts of very hot water, not boiling from a kettle poured directly down a porcelain fixture. That can cause thermal shock cracking in older sinks. Hot from the tap, or if you want to use kettle water, let it sit for 30 seconds first. Step 1. Pour the salt directly into the drain opening. Don't dissolve it first. You want the crystals to travel down and physically contact the pipe walls on the way through. Let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes if your drain has some sluggishness to it. What you're allowing is the salt to begin drawing moisture from the organic material clinging to your pipe walls. Step 2. Follow with the hot water, slowly and steadily, not a sudden rush. A slow, sustained pour keeps the water and salt in contact with the pipe walls longer than a sudden burst of pressure would. Take a full 30 to 45 seconds to pour the water. Step 3. Run your normal tap water for another 60 seconds afterward to flush the loosened material completely through and out of the system. That's the core treatment. $1 of salt. 5 minutes of your time. Done once a month per drain. For bathroom drains, the buildup profile is different. Primarily hair, soap scum, and product residue. Salt helps with the soap scum and biofilm component, but it won't dissolve hair. Before your monthly salt treatment on a shower drain, clear any visible hair from the drain cover first. Then proceed with the same salt and hot water method. If your kitchen sink has a garbage disposal, the salt treatment serves a dual purpose. The abrasive action helps clean the grinding chamber and the rubber splash guard, a part of the disposal that most people never clean and that gets genuinely unpleasant over time. Run your disposal briefly after adding the salt before you add the water. Let the grinding action distribute the salt through the chamber, then flush with hot water as normal. One thing to keep in mind: if you have a drain that is already severely blocked, water backing up near complete stoppage, salt maintenance isn't the appropriate tool for that situation. You're dealing with an acute blockage that needs direct intervention. Salt is a maintenance method, not an emergency solution. For active blockages, consult a professional or use an appropriate product designed for that specific situation. Here's the honest conversation about timelines and expectations, because I think honesty here is what actually makes this useful. You are not going to pour salt down your drain once and see your water bill drop by 30% the following month. That's not how this works, and anyone telling you otherwise is overselling it. What you're doing with regular salt treatment is a cumulative maintenance practice. The first treatment loosens surface material. The second treatment reaches a layer below that. Over several months, you're essentially restoring your drain's flow capacity toward what it was when the pipes were newer, or at least significantly closer to it. For drains that have years of gradual buildup, you might notice a difference in water flow within the first 3 or 4 treatments. Your shower might drain noticeably faster. Your kitchen sink might clear more quickly after washing dishes. Those functional improvements are the mechanism through which water bill reductions occur. You're simply running water for less time to achieve the same result. The 30% figure that circulates in discussions about this method reflects what some households report seeing in their water bill reduction over a sustained period of consistent maintenance, typically 3 to 6 months of regular application across multiple drains. That number will vary significantly depending on how compromised your drains were. To begin with, how many drains you're treating, your household size, and your local water rates. For some households, the reduction will be less. For households with multiple people and heavily used drains that have never received maintenance, the difference can be more significant. Results genuinely vary, but the directional effect over time is consistent. Cleaner drains use less water. That part doesn't vary. Once you understand the core principle, you can start layering in some variations that address different drain situations and amplify the overall effect. For drains with a noticeable odor issue, which often signals a biofilm or organic accumulation problem, combine half a cup of coarse salt with half a cup of baking soda before your hot water flush. Baking soda adds an alkaline component that helps neutralize acidic organic compounds and addresses the bacteria responsible for drain odors. The two work on different aspects of the same problem: salt on the physical and osmotic side, baking soda on the chemical neutralization side. For drains dealing with harder mineral scale, particularly relevant, if you're in a hard water area, salt alone is less effective because mineral scale is a different type of buildup than organic matter. Try a two-stage approach. Pour your salt first as described. Wait 5 minutes. Then pour half a cup of white vinegar and let it work for 10 minutes before following with your hot water flush. The vinegar's acidity attacks the mineral deposits while the salt addresses the organic layer. Together, they cover the most common types of drain buildup. One note: never combine vinegar and baking soda in the same application expecting double the effect. The reaction they produce, that fizzing you may have seen, actually neutralizes both of them, reducing each one's individual effectiveness. Use them separately on different treatment cycles, depending on what your drain needs. If you have a household with heavy kitchen use, lots of cooking, frequent dishwashing by hand, consider doing the kitchen drain treatment every 3 weeks rather than monthly. High traffic drains accumulate buildup faster, and the maintenance interval should reflect that. Bathroom drains in infrequently used bathrooms can stretch to every 6 to 8 weeks without issue. The goal is calibrating the maintenance to the drain's actual workload, rather than applying a one-size-fits-all schedule. There's something that bothers me about the way we've been taught to think about home maintenance. And this salt drain story is a pretty good illustration of it. We've been trained, over decades of product marketing and professional service culture, to see our homes as things that require external expertise and purchase solutions to function. Something goes wrong? Call someone. Something slows down? Buy the product for it. The idea that a box of salt from your pantry and 5 minutes of your time can meaningfully impact something, as consequential as your monthly utility bill, that idea feels almost too simple to be true. But simple and effective aren't mutually exclusive. Often they're the same thing. The most durable solutions in home maintenance are usually the ones that work with basic physical and chemical principles, not the ones wrapped in the most convincing packaging. What I'd encourage you to do is this. Try one drain. Your kitchen sink, since that's usually the one doing the most work. 1 cup of coarse salt. Hot water follow once a month for the next 3 months. Track your drain's performance. Does it clear faster? Does the water bill move? Give it enough time for the cumulative effect to show up, then make your own judgment. That's all this is. An experiment worth running. If you found this useful, if this is the kind of practical, overlooked information you actually want in your feed, then subscribing makes sense, because this is what I keep digging into. The stuff that works, that doesn't cost much, that doesn't require calling anyone or buying much of anything. It's out there, and there's more of it than you'd expect. One more thing before you go. The next time your water bill arrives, and the number feels higher than it should, before you assume it's just usage, take a look at your drain flow. The answer might already be in your kitchen cabinet.